It's a real honor to be here at CSA. So today I will be speaking about a flagship initiative of UNDP called SDG Impact. We have been, from the UNDP side, also looking at how we can, looking more from the financial side and a business model side, how we can really incentivize firms and investors to look at alignment with the SDGs. So let me start with my presentation. I mean, the first question, I think, of course, is what is the business and investment case for sustainable development and the sustainable development goals? I mean, there's a standards case, there's other case. I'm very fascinated by the work that you've been doing. I would like to have a follow-up conversation between our standard team, part of whom are in Australia, so we're not able to join today on this. But from our perspective, really, we see the SDGs as the world blueprint to achieve a better, more sustainable. We see, for example, achievement of gender equality could increase the size of the global economy by 26%. The other thing that's valuable about the SDGs from a business perspective is it breaks down silos between different actors and geography. I mean, if you have a materiality analysis from a firm perspective, you look at what affects you from risk and what are the opportunities. So it's a good framework to look at and to use in your business strategy. I mean, there's a report that was written that talked about there's a $12 trillion annual business opportunity that could be unlocked in 4 major sector investment systems: food and agriculture, cities, energy and materials, and health and well-being. So it's in this context that we see that there are really 2 pillars of this. One is mitigating environmental and social externalities is an important part of the contribution standards, I think, of the SDGs. I think this is very much a part and parcel of the recognition in recent years that we cannot live in a world without addressing these issues. And the second one is really increasing private sector investment aligned with the SDGs. Developing products and services and solutions for unserved and underserved market, for example, renewable energy, solar on a low-cost basis in Africa and other places. Those are the 2 ways we think about the business case. What is SDG Impact? So first, maybe what is UNDP? As you may not know, so the UN has basically 3 major thematic areas of intervention. One is on the humanitarian side, which is basically organizations like the World Food Program and others who basically deliver life-saving humanitarian support in times of crises. The other pillar is really health, where World Health Organizations, others very much leading with UNICEF. And then the third one is around development activities. And UNDP is the one that is focused on development. The aim of SDG Impact is we realize that very much investors and the financial community are a very important pillar to drive and align SDG sort of investments. And we have basically developed 3 products. One is impact management, the design and development of SDG Impact Standards and seal, impact management training. The second one's impact intelligence, identification of opportunities in specific countries, that investment opportunity areas that are aligned with the SDGs. For example, in renewable energy, education, in different kind of sectors. And we've implemented this in 40 countries. So you can basically drill down and understand, if you're in Brazil, that there's an investment opportunity around grain silo, cold storage, that has not been actualized that will help the food supply chains. Or that in Turkey, telemedicine is another one. Or in South Africa, hydrogen sort of is another area. And then impact facilitation, convening investors and others to come and look at these potential bankable projects and opportunities. Why are SDG Impact Standards needed? We are pushing against the boundaries of our social and natural systems, which is making that interdependent. So it is, we need to look at a authenticity of activities around SDGs. There's a lot of greenwashing and other things also that is happening, but we need to have an integrated look. The private sector itself is seeking opportunity for positive impacts and needs guidance. 72% of companies mentioned the SDGs in the report. They publish in their business strategy, but only 1% are reporting quantitative measures to show their progress. Often they're looking at transactional output base. They can tell you, for example, I have sold X or I've done this, but sort of the impact value chain and looking at the integral fashion is something that is not often looked at. So we want to move from SDGs as an added on to more of a core strategy. Again, so going from added on, and I think this is where the standards word is really critical, from SDG alignment to action, from reporting to decision making, from measurement to management, from financial risk management to sustainability. So this is the sort of approach at the core. And we will not be able to achieve this if this doesn't become at the heart of business strategy and operations with the right regulatory incentives, and I guess standards are part of it, and also the financial support. So, and in this context, this will be an opportunity to basically look at the authenticity. There's around $30 trillion worth of sustainable finance that are labeled, used by multiple actors, but it is unclear how much of it is actually promoting sustainable development and how much is actually SDG. So these are decision-making standards, not performance or reporting standards. By focusing on decision-making and adopting the standards are a proxy and leading indicator for future impact. They're designed to help organizations integrate operating responsibly as part of their organizational management system, investment framework, decision-making practices, user common language. We've gone through a number of different sort of consensus and consultations, and we've been very specific. We have SDG Impact Standard for enterprises that will be, that is being released. We have SDG Impact Standard for bond issuers, for private equity fund. And Mourad, I'm happy to share with you what these. And the way it was designed is complementary to existing work undertaken by other industry initiatives. It is embedded, it's embedding the SDGs. There's something called the Impact Management Project that provides shared norms and taxonomies for different standards. And it is very much aligned also with the OECD sort of perspective in terms. And if folks want more technical, our standards folks can have a more deep dive specific looking at these specific standards based on the relevant. So the idea is that if you really want to unpack this, we're looking at the SDG standards is a complementary end-to-end management system that bridges the gap between principles, these metrics and taxonomies, and performance reporting and benchmarking. And you can see sort of what is our theory change and approach. And we started implementing it here with a number of multinationals, with also folks issuing bonds recently and looking at private equity funds. So by having it embedded as an internal decision-making framework, this enables different decision makers. So there's a whole capacity, I think, element that needs to be done to support beyond just the reporting people, to actually have the people, let's say, who are developing products to think about the SDGs. We have whole processes by which we think about product innovations and how to align it with SDG, and then our corporates can pivot towards more SDG aligned business model. And this is something that we're right now working on an assurance. And here's the list of all the partners that we have that we're investing. As you can see, there's a lot of pension funds investors right now because we have specific. But there's a whole assurance framework that right now that is being developed that will be rolled out in the next 6 to 9 months. So we very much appreciate the perspective of CSA and its constituencies in this sort of assurance framework, because I think that's going to be a very critical part of this. And this is becoming also interoperable with the EU Sustainable Finance Regulation that we launched. Increasingly, as we know, like the European Green Deal is driving a lot of change around supply chain, so around the world in terms of looking at materiality impact. Also, the recent human rights due diligence standards that the EU has put in is also having a similar This gives you a bit of I guess, a bird's eye view of the work we're doing, and we'd be happy to have a very specific conversation with some of our standards team, someone who happened in Australia, so it's 1 a.m. there, to further discuss this. Thank you, and from Istanbul.